Hello, Mike's Diabetes World. Hope you're all doing well. We're out for our afternoon walk. Oh, the colors look very rich today. Anyway, work. Work, school, the stuff we have to get to and do every day. How does that affect your diabetes? Stay tuned. Work, school. What do you have to tell people? You have to be aware, but what do other people have to be aware? Now, if you're the type that you don't want everyone to know what's going on in your business, great. But you need to be aware that having diabetes could be a safety issue. And if you're going to be a type that isn't going to let people know what's going on, then you better have tight control. You're going to have to make sure that you test, that you eat, and, it's your responsibility. Now, if you let people know that you have diabetes, things could be a lot easier for you. Now, so often people are concerned that if they tell someone they have diabetes, that they're going to be fired or, they can't move up. Well, you know what? By law, that can't happen. And if that does happen where you work, well, you better get a hold of your HR department or human rights. But on the whole, most diabetics can't be fired for having diabetes. So, in my time, I told my employer everything. Did it hinder me? No. I think you need to be aware, and you gotta let other people be aware. So often, we need to. Sorry, I'm just making sure. Now, what do you need to tell them? Well, if you don't tell your employer what's going on, it's going to be a shock, and then, oh my God. So, what do you need to tell your employer? You need to say, hey, I have type 1 diabetes. I'm going to need break time. And nowadays, it's not a big thing. Most of the time, you can say, hey, can I have 15 minutes so I can eat? Or 10 minutes to take my insulin? Years ago, I worked for 7-Eleven. I can say that now. And back then, you were pretty well, expected to come to work, and then you're going to go home. There was no break time. But I didn't hide my insulin dependency, even when I got hired on at Save On Foods. I didn't hide things. So, when I had a low blood sugar, I was able to deal with it. And people kind of not expected, but if I had a low blood sugar, most of the time, it was okay. So, if you're open with your team at work, or your bosses at work, or the HR, it's not too big of a deal. Now, the one negative time was I had my insulin and my needles and everything in my business bags, or your briefcase, or whatever you want to call it. And it was moved, or it was knocked over, and someone saw the needles, and it was brought up to HR, and it was like, the person complained that, I had insulin needles, and, my goodness, I don't think that's appropriate that, we have someone who works for us that was on drugs, and my person who I worked with, the area rep, was called, and, you gotta have a meeting, and you've got to sort this out, and, I said, I'm being open with you, and it was in my bag, and yes, my bag was knocked over or moved, but, I don't think we need to have a whole meeting and go through and explain everything. Okay. Come on. So, things like that. Yes, there needs to be an investigation. There doesn't need to be an investigation. You really need to just tell the employee, or whoever found it, or whatever, what the circumstances is. I don't need to have an emergency investigation meeting about what's going on, and I don't think that's really appropriate. But I had to sit down with the person and say, well, I have diabetes and I have to use the needles to take shots. And they had to decide, you know, I was kind of like, well, I don't think that was sort of the importance. I think the rep should have said, well, yeah, he has diabetes, and it was really sort of made a bigger deal. And I don't think the person ever sort of believed me. But I personally don't think that should have been brought. Oh, sorry, my hand's getting a little. Brought to the attention of, I think really it should have been said to the person, yes, we know of the condition, we know what the person has, and that's the reason for it. First of all, it wasn't like I left the items on the desk or in the bathroom, or it was left it was left on my bag, and in my bag, it wasn't sort of like left out, and so I don't think I needed to prove anything, and I was sort of like left where I felt uncomfortable, and it was sort of like I had to sit there and explain why I was carrying needles. And personally, I feel we shouldn't have to explain anything. You should really be allowed to have diabetes. It's, whether you're at work, you should let your boss know. You should have a friend or something at work know about it, and you should be allowed to have a break to do your shots or whatever. Now, when I was with 7-Eleven, I never really had a problem. When I was with LensCrafters, it seemed to be a bigger problem than it needed to be. Oh well, you've got to bring it up with the employee, and that really, no, it didn't really have to be. But, there were times when I was with 7-Eleven, I had an emergency, and yes, I was twice when I worked for 7-Eleven. I was pulled away by an ambulance. Well, once I knew I was going low, and I tried to go and say, hey, I'm low, but I don't think when I was low, I was conveying the emergency that I needed someone to watch, go and watch the gas pumps, and I was, oh, blah, blah, blah. But, oh, you're acting funny. Just go out there and you have to get back to the... And eventually, I just crashed. I became unable to do what I needed to, and I fell flat first. They knew I had diabetes, but I was taken away by the ambulance, and oh well. The next time I was actually working on what to do in emergency situations, and they wanted to make our office safe, and we had a meeting about it, and I crashed the day of the meeting. So, I've always found being just not forceful, but being upright and what I needed after that. A lot of times remember, don't settle for that they won't give you a job or a promotion because you have diabetes. If that's the case, speak to your HR, speak to a lawyer, your human rights, that if you have any concerns, just because you have diabetes, they can't turn you down for any position. Be aware of what's going on. You have a right to have any job you really want. With the minor exceptions, obviously you can't be a pilot and be on insulin. But you need to be able to be aware of, always be prepared. I've always found that being aware, talking about what you have, tell people how you're going to be able to do your job, sorry. You need to be aware of what the job expectations are and how you're able to meet those expectations. Be open. Always be not always be, but tell people how you're going to do that job, how you're going to be able to do it with diabetes. So have a great day. We'll talk to you later. Bye now.